Let's go to Safety Committee, Mr. Koss.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. For both of these items, I'm going to ask for the police chief to comment on both of them. And I'd like to start first with an update on the dangerous dog designation. We had an incident, I think as everybody knows, last week with a news story that ran of 2 dogs running loose throughout the 45s area on Vanda Avenue, and the subsequent feedback that we received from the public as a part of this. So I asked the chief to come by and in a lot of cases set the record straight and also update everybody on where we stand with this situation. And when the chief is done, I know he's going to have some stats, and I'll also have some additional comments when he's done as well too. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Koss. The situation with the 2 dogs that were involved in that incident, there was 2 owners of the dogs, and both dogs were cited for dog at large, and they appeared in court last Thursday, and I believe they pled guilty or they pled no contest and were found guilty and fined by the judge. It was our intent after that was completed that we were going to utilize our ordinance to designate these dogs as nuisance animals. And prior to doing that, the dogs were removed from the city, so there's no need to do that, and we have the documentation that that's the case.
Mr. Koss?
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to hear that the chiefs say that not only have the dogs been removed from the city, but they are getting written confirmation from the owners of the dogs that the dogs are gone. And if these dogs were to return, they'd have to notify the police department as well too. So I think that should allow the community to breathe a sigh of relief on this. Just a little background on the designated dog law. Since we passed this law in approximately 2 years ago, we started with 0 designations in the city, and from everything that we could tell, there were no designations in the entire county as well. In the last 2 years, we now have 9 designations in the city with 1 pending. So we've gone from 0 to 9, and we take these situations very seriously, and the police department does a terrific job when they are called and when they respond of designating these dogs and placing restrictions on these dogs. And I think the community needs to know also that they can find where these dogs are. On our city webpage, and this is a reminder that I think needs to go out, is on avonlake.org under the police department page, there's a drop box for the dangerous dog ordinance, and you can see the map of the city that has where each of these designated dogs reside. It has their address, it has their designation, and it has a picture of that dog with the dog's name. Like I said, we currently have 9. We have 1 Weimaraner, we have 1 Lab Boxer mix, we have 2 Pits, we have 1 Shepherd, we have 1 Shepherd mix, we have 1 Golden Retriever, and we have 2 Mastiff Boxer mixes. So we have a variety of dogs that have been designated under this law. And all of them are currently being going to be looked at by the police department. I've asked the chief at by the October Safety Committee meeting to provide a report to the committee, just updating us on the designations and making sure that these owners of these dogs are following through with everything that they were supposed to do. Whether that's the insurance, whether that's the fencing, whether that's the color-coded leash vest that they're supposed to be wearing, or the signs in front of their house stating that a dangerous dog lives there or nuisance dog lives there. The chief is going to report back on the follow-up to ensure that all of these dog owners are following the restrictions placed on them, and that there have been no other incidents as well too. So I look forward to that October meeting. And you know, in this instance, the police department responded and they cited the owner. The case went to court. The judge found them guilty, and then the police department began the appropriate steps to designating these dogs. And upon learning about the designations, the owners of the dogs as a big part of their decisions to have the dogs removed, saw the list of restrictions and opted to just get rid of the dogs. And we've seen this happen in a couple of other instances as well, too. In that case, our restrictions that we have tend to act as a ban in effect. So when they look at these, and if you look at some of these properties and then the property owner or the dog owner realizes that they have to erect a 6-foot tall fence, that they cannot just let their dogs out in the yard to run freely, that the dogs must be supervised, that insurance needs to be obtained, that the dogs have to be microchipped, that the dogs have to be spayed and neutered, have to go to obedience courses, have to go through a number of other restrictions that are placed on them, have to have a sign posted in their front yard, in the front window, for the public to see that a dangerous or nuisance or vicious dog lives there. These things I see acting as a deterrent in a lot of cases, and when there's an issue that takes place, a property owner looks at that and opts to get rid of the dog. Either way, problem is solved. So, any confusion from the public that the city doesn't have strong enough dog laws, I would disagree with. I have said this before, it's been repeated, and the other communities that are following our law would say the same thing, that this is the toughest dog law in Northeast Ohio, if not the state. I haven't seen a tougher one. And our number of designations, I think, spells that out. The cities of Kirkland, Bay Village, Mansfield are looking to follow our law. In some cases, they already have. So I think that speaks volumes that other communities are looking at what we're doing. So again, we take this very seriously. This isn't something that we just kind of poo-pooed and didn't respond to or deal with. The police department acted accordingly. The dogs are in the process of designation, and thankfully the owner did the right thing and chose to get rid of their dogs. If those dogs come back, we will be notified, and the notification process can begin again at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Koss. Mr. Minor?
Unfortunately, social media can runs with a lot of misinformation. Chief, I want to ask you, how many different times was the police department contacted about these dogs in question?
We had been to that residence 2 other times prior to the incident where they were cited.
So that's hardly numerous times.
The
as
previous times the
reported.
dogs weren't out when we were there. This was the only time the dogs were out when we were there. The owners were advised at the time that in question that Thursday, the owners were not at home and the dogs were out.
So the police responded on each occasion, which is not what was reported and on the television news report. Avon Lake Police Department responded every single time.
Mr. Koss?
Yeah, just one final thing. I think this is a good opportunity to, again, stress the leash law. In that, you hear comments about that people see dogs all the time without their leash on. And, it's a difficult thing. I talked with a resident today, and, as he said, I don't want to seem like the mean old guy on the street that calls the police all the time. Unfortunately, the police can't be everywhere all the time. And if you see an issue with that, the police department does have a non-emergency number. So you're not calling 911 reporting a dog off its leash. And as they're out on patrol, when they get that call, they will drive by and take a look at it and then get that dog back to the owner and talk to that owner at that time. And that number is 933-4567. And also, with regard, aside from the leash law, if there's a dog in a neighborhood or dogs in the neighborhood that are showing signs of aggression that people in the neighborhood know of, that it's common knowledge in that neighborhood that these dogs are aggressive and barking and growling and all of these things that we hear, please call the police department, because when we get to the issue where there is a bite that takes place, it's too late. We went through great pains as city council to establish the first of its kind, the pre-bite legislation, and so we can now deal with dogs before they bite. So call the police department. If for some reason you don't feel comfortable calling the police department, call your council person, and the council people will contact the police department for them. But call somebody, get these things reported, because again, in this particular situation, I'm watching this news clip and people are saying, oh yeah, we knew all about these dogs. These dogs are doing this all the time, and we knew that they were this and that. We knew that they were that. Call somebody. Thank you.
Mrs. Vinderbus.
Thank you. It's my nightly duty to remind everybody that if your house was built prior to 1972, you need to have your inspections for the sewer separation. We need to get 701 of these separated by December 31st, 2019. Thank you.